I still remember the soft ping of my phone that morning. It was from my son, Daniel. I smiled before opening it, thinking it was another reminder about the rehearsal dinner or maybe a sweet thank you for helping with the wedding bills. But instead, the words on my screen froze my heart. "Hey Mum, you won't be joining us. My wife prefers to keep it only family." I read it again, and again, only family. I was his mother, the one who made the family. The room around me blurred. My hands trembled as I placed the phone down on the kitchen counter. It felt like the world tilted, just slightly enough to knock the air from my lungs. For a long time, I stood there, staring at the message. Part of me hoped it was a joke, that maybe Daniel had sent it by mistake. But deep down, I knew. This wasn't an accident. It was a decision, one that sliced straight through 28 years of love, sacrifice, and motherhood. From the moment Daniel was born, he became my reason for everything. I raised him alone after his father passed away when he was only 6. I worked 2 jobs, mornings at the bakery, evenings cleaning offices, just to keep food on the table and a smile on his face. I remember the nights he'd fall asleep on my lap as I read him stories, the soft hum of the heater filling the silence of our small apartment. He used to whisper, "Mom, when I grow up, I'll take care of you like you take care of me." And I believed him every word. So when he met Claire, I was genuinely happy. She was polite, beautiful, and seemed to love him deeply. I thought maybe this is my reward for all those years of struggle. A good son, a loving daughter-in-law, and the chance to finally rest. I didn't know then that the dream I had built would one day turn into my deepest heartbreak. Daniel wanted a big wedding, something beautiful, elegant, memorable. I offered to help with the costs, even though I didn't have much. I took out a small loan, sold my late husband's gold watch, and poured everything into that celebration. From the flower arrangements to the catering, I handled it all. Claire seemed distant through most of the planning, but I brushed it off. I told myself she was just nervous. When the big day came, I sat in the front row, tears in my eyes, watching my son, my baby, say his vows. But Claire barely looked my way. She avoided photos with me, avoided conversations. And when guests came to congratulate her, she would introduce her parents, but never me. That night, at the reception I had paid for, I felt like a stranger. My son, caught in the middle, just gave me a tight, apologetic smile before being pulled away by his new wife. He was there, but he was gone. The months after the wedding were a slow, painful fade. My calls to Daniel went to voicemail more and more often. When he did call back, his voice was strained, hurried. "Claire and I are busy, Mum," he'd say. "We're building our new life." But their new life didn't seem to have a place for me. I'd see pictures on social media, parties, vacations, dinners with Claire's family. Each post was another small cut, a reminder that I was on the outside looking in. The loneliness was an ache that settled deep in my bones. I had given my all to see my son happy, but I never imagined his happiness would mean my solitude. One afternoon, I decided I couldn't live like this anymore. I drove to their house unannounced. My heart was pounding as I walked up the driveway. I just wanted to see him, to look him in the eye and ask why. But as I got to the door, I heard voices from the backyard. I walked around the side and saw them. Daniel, Claire and her parents, all laughing around a barbecue. And there, in the middle of it all, was a small, blue, inflatable pool. A child's pool. My breath caught in my throat. I was going to be a grandmother, and they hadn't told me. I stood there, hidden by the bushes, as Claire's mother handed her a glass of lemonade, rubbing her belly and cooing. It was a perfect family picture, and I wasn't in it. The pain was so sharp, so absolute, it was like a physical blow. This wasn't just about being excluded from dinners. This was about being erased. Erased from my son's life, from my grandchild's life. I turned and walked away, tears blurring my vision. The man I had raised, the boy who promised to take care of me, was letting his wife build a wall around him, brick by painful brick. Back in my empty house, I sat in the dark, the silence screaming at me. For days, I barely ate. I felt a profound sense of failure. Had I done something wrong? Was I not a good enough mother? The questions echoed in my mind, each one a torment. I had lost my husband, and now I had lost my son. The foundation of my world had crumbled, and I was left in the ruins, wondering how I was supposed to rebuild. But then, something shifted. A tiny spark of defiance flickered to life in the darkness. I thought of all the years I had fought, all the battles I had won to give Daniel a good life. I had survived loss before. I had survived hardship. I would not let this break me. I had poured my entire being into him, and now it was time to pour some of that strength back into myself. I deserved more than to be a ghost in my own family's story. The next morning, I woke up with a new resolve. I cancelled the loan I had taken out for the wedding. It was a struggle, but I started a small baking business from my kitchen, using the skills I'd honed at the bakery all those years ago. It wasn't much at first, just a few orders from neighbors, but it was mine. It gave me a purpose, a reason to get up in the morning that wasn't tied to my son. I reconnected with old friends, joined a book club, and started going for long walks. Slowly, piece by piece, I began to build a new life, one that was centered on my own happiness. A few months later, I got a call. It was Daniel. His voice was different, hesitant. "Mum, Claire, she had the baby. It's a boy." I took a deep breath. The old me would have burst into tears, begging to see him. But the new me was calmer, stronger. "That's wonderful, Daniel. I wish you all the best," I said, my voice even. There was a long pause. "Mom, can we see you? I want you to meet him." He sounded desperate, and for the first time I heard a crack in his voice. I knew this was a crossroads. I could fall back into the old patterns, or I could stand my ground. Daniel, I said gently but firmly, I'm happy for you, I truly am. But I've spent the last year being shown that I am not part of your family. You can't just invite me back in when it's convenient for you. My door is always open, but you need to be the one to walk through it, and you need to walk through it alone first. We need to talk, just you and me. It was the hardest thing I'd ever said. But as I hung up the phone, I didn't feel sadness. I felt a quiet strength. I had reclaimed my life, my dignity. I am a mother, yes, but I am also a woman who deserves respect. My love for my son is unconditional, but my presence in his life is not. I don't know what will happen next. Maybe he will come and we can start to heal, or maybe he won't. But either way, I know I will be okay. I have found my own family in the friends who support me, and I have found my own happiness in the life I am building for myself. My story is not over. It's just beginning. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you've ever felt alone or pushed aside, know that you have Wuna Torsna Sailu to rebuild. Please consider subscribing for more stories like this. Your support means the world to me. I told myself it didn't matter. As long as Daniel was happy, I could endure anything. But as I watched them on the dance floor, their smiles so bright and perfect, something inside me shifted. It was a quiet distance, like a wall slowly being built between us, brick by silent, heartbreaking brick. It was a feeling I couldn't shake, a premonition of the loneliness to come. After the wedding, Daniel and Claire moved into a beautiful new house. It was a house I had partly paid for, a wedding gift from a mother who wanted nothing more than to see her son settled, safe, and deeply loved. I didn't want anything in return. Not really, just a small place in his life, a continuation of the bond we'd always shared. But soon the visits became rare. The phone calls grew shorter, more strained. Sometimes entire weeks would slip by in a blur of silence, without a single text message to break the quiet. My phone, which once buzzed with his life, now felt like a dead weight in my purse. Whenever I did manage to work up the courage to call, it was often Claire who answered, her tone always clipped and cool. "Oh, Daniel's busy right now," she'd say, a phrase that quickly became her go-to excuse. "We'll call you back later." But they never did. The promised callback was a ghost, a hope that faded with each passing day. The silence on their end grew louder than any words they could have spoken. One sunny afternoon, I decided to do something special. I spent the morning in my kitchen, a place filled with so many happy memories of raising Daniel, and I made his favorite dish, homemade lasagna. The smell of baking cheese and rich tomato sauce filled my small house, and for a little while it felt like old times. My heart was full of excitement as I carefully placed the warm dish in my car and began the 2-hour drive across town. I pictured his smile, the way his eyes would light up, just like when he was a boy. When I finally arrived and knocked on their new front door, it was Claire who opened it. Her smile was tight, forced, and didn't reach her eyes. "Oh," she said, her voice laced with surprise. Or maybe annoyance. "You didn't call first." Before I could even find the words to reply, to explain that I just wanted to do something nice, she added softly, "Daniel's resting. It's probably not a good time. Maybe next time." She never invited me in. I was left standing there on the porch, a forgotten guest at my own son's home, holding that warm dish of lasagna in my trembling hands. Through the closed door, I could faintly hear Daniel's laughter from inside. He was just a few feet away, laughing, but he never came to the door. Not once. The weight of that dish suddenly felt unbearable, a symbol of all the love I had to give, with nowhere for it to go. The drive home was a blur of tears. That night, I sat alone at my kitchen table and cried over a plate of cold lasagna. Each bite was tasteless, a bitter reminder of the closed door and the laughter I wasn't a part of. It was more than just a rejected meal. It was a rejected gesture, a rejection of me. I felt a profound sense of loss, a grief for a connection that was slipping through my fingers like sand. Months crawled by, and the chasm between us only widened. Soon, my son's birthday was approaching. This was always our special day. Ever since he was a little boy, I baked his favorite cake, a rich chocolate cake with a decadent caramel drizzle. It was our tradition, a sweet thread connecting the years. This year, clinging to that thread of hope, I texted him, my fingers shaking slightly as I typed. "What time is the celebration, honey? I can bring your cake." The reply took hours to come. When my phone finally lit up, the message was short and non-committal. "Claire's planning something small this year. We'll let you know." Days went by, the silence stretched, thin and taut, until it was almost painful. No call came, no invitation arrived, just that deafening, soul-crushing silence. And then, that morning, the morning that everything inside me finally broke his message, arrived. I read it once, then twice, the words swimming before my eyes. "You won't be joining us. My wife prefers to keep it only family, only family." The words echoed in my mind, each repetition cutting deeper than the last. I was the one who held him when he was sick, who cheered the loudest at his games, who celebrated every milestone. I had helped pay for their wedding, their honeymoon, even the down payment on the very house I was now excluded from. And yet, in the blink of an eye, I was no longer considered family. My chest felt heavy, constricted, as if 100 invisible hands were squeezing my heart until it couldn't beat. A wave of emotions washed over me: disbelief, anger, and a sorrow so profound it stole my breath. I wanted to scream, to call him and demand an explanation, to ask him how he could let this happen. But I didn't, because even in the face of such a deep betrayal, a mother's love doesn't just switch off. It doesn't die. It just breaks quietly and all at once. I sat there, phone in hand, feeling the final brick in that wall slide into place, sealing me out of my own son's life for good. And in that moment, I understood that some heartbreaks don't make a sound. They just leave you in an endless, echoing silence. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you've ever felt a similar kind of heartache or loneliness, please know you're not alone. If this resonated with you, consider subscribing to our channel and hitting the like button. Your support means the world. We'll see you in the next video. That message ... After that, I stopped. I stopped calling, stopped texting. I told myself, if they want space, then I'll give them space. But giving them space meant my own home became a hollow, empty place. It grew colder with each passing day. The pictures of Daniel on the wall, his baby photos, him in his graduation cap, the wedding portrait, they started to feel like pictures of strangers. I couldn't even look at them without my eyes welling up, tears clouding my vision until his smile was just a blur. One evening, my neighbor, Mrs. Lopez, knocked on my door. A kind woman, always checking in on me. She said she'd just seen Daniel and Claire at a restaurant nearby. She told me how happy they looked, laughing, surrounded by friends and family. Family. That word hit me like a physical blow. I managed a weak smile, pretending it didn't hurt, pretending I was happy for them. But the moment she left, the second the door clicked shut, my knees gave out. I sank to the floor, clutching my chest, just trying to breathe between the sobs. I had given that boy everything, my youth, my health, my entire life, and in return, I was erased. It felt like I had been completely written out of his story. So, I did the only thing I felt I had left to do. I started living quietly. I stopped waiting for the phone to ring. I stopped expecting messages that never came. I stopped hoping for visits that were never planned. And with every silent day that passed, the wound in my heart didn't heal. It just hardened, growing a thick layer of scar tissue over the pain. Years went by like this. Silent, empty years. Then, one day, Daniel called. His voice was ... different, uncertain, hesitant. It was the same tone he used when he was a little boy and he knew, just knew, he'd done something wrong. "Mum, Claire's pregnant," he said. For just a split second, my heart soared. A grandchild, a chance to be a part of their lives again, a chance to feel needed. My mind was already racing with all the things I could do, the little sweaters I could knit, the stories I could tell. But before I could even get a word out, he rushed to add, "We're keeping things small. Claire's parents are helping out. So don't worry about anything. Don't worry about anything." Those 4 words echoed in my head long after the call ended. They weren't meant to be reassuring. They were a dismissal, a final closing of the door. That was the last real conversation we had. Months later, scrolling through my phone in the dead of night, I saw pictures of the baby shower online. There were smiling faces, beautiful decorations, and pink and white balloons that said, "Welcome, baby Grace." Everyone was there, everyone except me. That night, I deleted my social media accounts. It was just easier not to see what I was missing. It was easier to pretend that world didn't exist than to see myself so painfully absent from it. Then came that winter morning. The kind of cold that seeps right into your bones. I was just carrying in some groceries, a simple, everyday task, but the steps were icy, and in a flash I was on the ground. A sharp, searing pain shot up my leg. I had broken it. It wasn't life-threatening, but the recovery was long and difficult, especially on my own. Lying in that sterile hospital bed, I found myself staring at my phone for hours. Half of me was hoping, praying, that Daniel would call. The other half was bracing for the disappointment when he didn't. And he didn't. Not for days, which turned into weeks. The silence was deafening, more painful than the ache in my leg, until one night, long after visiting hours had ended, the phone finally buzzed on the bedside table. His name flashed on the screen. My hand trembled as I answered. "Mum," he said softly, and his voice was trembling, too. "I just heard. Why didn't you tell me?" I swallowed hard. "I didn't think you'd care," I said quietly. There was a long, heavy silence on the line. Then I heard a small sob, so faint I almost missed it. "Claire's gone," he whispered, his voice cracking. "She left. Took Grace. I'm alone." And right there, in that single moment, despite all the pain, all the years of silence, my heart broke for him all over again. Because no matter how much he had hurt me, no matter how much distance he had put between us, he was still my son. When Daniel finally came to see me, the man who stood in my doorway was almost a stranger. He looked thinner, much older, and carried a brokenness I had never seen in him before, not even as a child. He sat on the edge of my bed, his eyes red and swollen. "I was wrong, Mum," he said, his voice shaking with every word. "She made me believe you were trying to control us, that you didn't like her. I thought I was protecting my marriage. I thought I was building a new family." Tears streamed down my cheeks as he spoke, not just for the pain I had felt, but for the pain I saw in him now. He reached out and took my hand, the same hand that had once held his through fevers and nightmares, the same hand that had waved goodbye at his first day of school. "I lost everything," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "I don't even know if Grace remembers me." For the first time in what felt like a lifetime, I pulled him into a hug. I held my son, not the man who had betrayed me, but the boy I once knew, lost and scared. And in that embrace, forgiveness finally came. It wasn't because he had earned it, or because he had said the right words. It came because my heart simply couldn't carry the weight of that bitterness anymore. I had to let it go to make room for what was left. Over the next few months, something started to shift. Daniel started visiting often. He wasn't just dropping by. He was present. He'd help me around the house, make me tea without being asked, and we would just sit and talk. He told me about his job, his struggles, about the man he was trying to become. It wasn't perfect. There were awkward silences and moments where the past hung between us like a shadow, but it was something real. It was a start. One evening, we were standing by the kitchen window, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. He turned to me, a hopeful light in his eyes. "You know, Mum, Grace is coming to stay with me next weekend. I'd really like you to meet her." My heart swelled with a warmth I hadn't felt in years. It was a feeling I thought I'd lost forever. I tried to smile, to hide the tears welling up in my eyes, but I couldn't. "I'd like that," I whispered, my voice thick with emotion. When the day came, I was so nervous. What if she didn't like me? What if she was scared of me? But when I finally met my granddaughter, Grace, with her big, curious brown eyes and a shy little smile that mirrored her father's, she didn't hesitate. She ran straight into my arms and held on tight. And just like that, years of loneliness, of feeling forgotten, simply melted away. In her embrace, I wasn't just a mother who had lost her son. I was a grandmother meeting her family for the first time. Sometimes late at night, when the house is quiet, I still think about that message. Those 4 cruel words that cut so deep, "You won't be joining us." But now they don't hurt in the same way. The sting is gone, because life has a strange and powerful way of showing us who truly belongs in our story and who was only ever passing through. I lost years to pain, but in the end, I found peace in forgiveness, and I learned that forgiveness isn't always for the other person. It's not about whether they deserved it. It was about me. I deserved to heal. I deserved to be free. As I sit here now, watching little Grace draw pictures on the floor, her crayon clutched in her tiny hand, I whisper to myself a promise and a truth all at once. I was never unwanted. I was just waiting to be remembered. And this time, looking at the beautiful family I have right here in front of me, I know with every fiber of my being, I am. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If this resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you'd like this video and subscribe to the channel. It means the world to me to be able to share these moments with you. Take care and remember to hold your loved ones close.